Hi there, just enjoying some decaf here. I've already posted a spoiler-free review on my website, wizardness.com, and I'll have a link in the description. So yesterday I finished Adrian Tchaikovsky's Alien Clay, which is a very interesting book about and human interaction with ecologies and different systems. The main protagonist is a guy named Arton Dogdev. I think that's how you pronounce it. He really goes on and on about how to pronounce his name correctly, which is do not enunciate the G. It's kind of funny. It's nice to see throughout the story that kind of character moments. This book is interesting because it's kind of it's set well in the future, like many of Adrian Tchaikovsky's books. It takes place on a different world, extrasolar planet, similar to his books like Children of Time. And like Children of Time, it has very interesting aliens. And these aliens are not just single creatures. They are macroorganisms, you could say. They are a combination of organisms together. Similar to the way that we have our gut biome, which kind of creates a bit of a macroorganism for ourselves. You can also think of it as whenever animals have symbiosis with animals, like the small rays and sharks, or even in worse situations where a fish has its tongue eaten out by a type of water bug that then still performs the functionality of the fish's tongue. It also eats some of the food that the fish eats. And in fact, that's probably the best analogy, and an analogy that's in the book, about how these organisms work, where they are out there looking and working with other animals and identifying the best way for them to work in symbiosis with each other. So an animal may not have the core primary animal, if you will, may not have legs, but will have another animal as legs, and then they'll share nutrients between them, which is a really fascinating type of creature to study, because it is so alien from us or any of the organisms on Earth, especially since it creates very different evolutionary pressures. And that's a big theme within the book, is how our interaction with these aliens and with the ecology there drives things to change, and how we're constantly surprised by what we're learning and finding on this planet, because everything is so novel and different. So the premise is, this Arton has been shipped off to this gulag, the kiln, from Earth by this futuristic fascist government called the Mandate. And the Mandate is very, very much either a Nazi or a Soviet type, probably more Soviet than Nazi, but it's not really explicitly clear what the economy is based around. There's some indications that it's capitalism, because there's the allowable wastage type of an idea, which certainly seems like something that you would build into a capitalist system, just a fascist capitalist system. You're all about minimizing costs. There's problems with things. You're okay with some defects or some loss, because that's baked into the system. Human life is extremely cheap in this universe, because there's so much overpopulation of Earth. So I think this book is really interesting because of the ecology aspect. It really kind of reminds me of the Southern Reach Trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer, where if you've seen the movie Annihilation, you've seen the first part of that story. In this, instead of having the animals kind of be changed by this unknown outside influence, the whole world is having this, going through these rapid evolutions and experiencing change. The reason why this planet is so important for the Mandate is that they're trying to understand what drove the creation of these kilns, hence the name of the planet, Kiln. They look like they are a place where you could go and bake bread or make a vessel out of it. However, there's not a lot of technology leading up to it, so there's a lot of consternation between archaeologists about about how the intelligence formed, and since they're not immediately apparent, where that intelligence has gone to. And so that's kind of the reason why Arton is sent there, because he's an ecologist and a biologist, and he has good insight into these sorts of things. And he's somewhat on the fringes of orthodoxy of what the mandate accepts. And in effect, he goes well beyond it, which is why he's sent to the kiln. The interesting thing is really this interaction about how we change nature and nature changes us, and how we need to be willing to be changed by nature because we are part of nature, and that we really need to be cognizant of the fact that there are different ways of life being sentient or sapient. And those two distinctions are important, because sentience, at least according to the Edge of Sentience, the book, which I will link below, sentience is the idea of a valenced emotion, so a directional emotion. You can think of anger. Anger and pain are the most obvious, but joy, excitement, and caring are also parts of that, and that is an emotional response, not just an intelligence response. And sapience is more of an intelligence factor, where you hit some threshold of intelligence. And in the Edge of Sentience, those two are kind of split apart. And so in this world, I think that there's pretty clear, obvious indications that there are sentient animals on this world, and that's really being ignored, and it has to be ignored by the mandate, because the mandate indicates that humanity is the peak of evolution, and so this whole world is at odds with what the mandate believes the world ought to be. And so it's a really interesting dichotomy comparison between these two ideas. And I think the idea of sapience is important for us as humanity anywhere, because we don't really know where that edge is. We think we think we can identify a number of animals that are sentient, but we don't really know where sapience starts or ends, and the number of sentient animals is growing all the time. And we know, for example, octopods are sentient and maybe sapient, but we certainly know that cows and dogs are sentient. So in this book, it's really about trying to understand the world as an ecology that might be more than what it looks like. So I'm going to kind of leave my explanation of the book there. If you think the book sounds interesting, definitely go check it out. I'll have a link down to bookshop.org. It will probably be an affiliate link. I'm going to be doing other sorts of book reviews on this channel. Do some readings from my books. I've got a couple books published, but I have a book of short stories. I plan on doing some readings of some of those. Feel free to give some comments, and have a good day. Thank you.